Kingy, your first crack is the Crows ball movement. Got the showdown done by 5 points.
Yes.
You like what you saw?
I do. I love what the Crows are building, and it's the Crows bros for me. Their mates just turn up when they need them to turn up. The outnumber, they arrive when it starts as a 1v1 or a 2v2, but they know they're coming. Their ball movement's a feature, and we'll get to the numbers in a moment, but the ethos of this footy club is super strong, and I'm a massive fan. I think they can go a long way. Let's have a look at what that looks like. So they go to a 3v3 in their forward line, and you can lose contest, OK? They lose this one down back, but they're well clamped on the outside. It's pretty basic one-on-one. But as soon as it leaves, and as soon as the opposition look like they're getting an exit or they're going to chain out, the numbers just arrive. So 2v1 comes from the middle as quick as it possibly can, and then that holding sort of midfielder gets back first. They go back in. They'll go to a 1-on-1 or a 3-on-3 or a 2-on-2. They trust their key post boys to get the job done in the air or get it to ground. This is the ranking bit of magic. And then they've got the extra that they can use because Rosie overcommits, but they knock it through. So it's really simple stuff, but it's basic things done brilliantly. Yep. And this is why I think it can go a long way. The returns are huge. So this is just sheer work rate. Ball coming out of the D50 to a contest again. At one man outnumber, and you can see Wiedering holding back there and allowing Fogarty to come up to the ball. He gets involved in the handball chain here, and they're away. Now, we all talk about Keys. Oh, what a great runner. He's got 4 of them again. But look in the middle of the ground. There's another 4 of them doing the same run. So the options are everywhere. So if they can slip 1 through, slip 2 through, they're away and gone. And just when you think it couldn't be all of them, it couldn't be. Is this a mantra of this footy club? Is it a mindset of all players? Well, let's look at the ruckman. And if the ruckman's doing it, I reckon you're in a pretty good space. And I reckon your club understands exactly what's required, time in, time out. So he gets on his bike. It's not a quick bike to go at this stage, but he challenges Finlayson to come all the way with him to defend. Now, he fails. So he drops off and hands over. Now you got him. Now you got him. You're 1-on-1 everywhere else. You got Horn Francis has to lock on. He's clearly taxed already. And O'Brien says, well, I'm going again. Surge running, and there's your outnumber. So it can come in many different forms, but in the end, Matty Nicks has these guys arriving to help their bros. And I call it it's Crows before bros, Dicko.
Yes.
The old saying.
The bros.
Yeah, I love it. I just think that they have a really happy place of working harder than the opposition. Now, can it last the full season? I don't know. Does it go 30 weeks? Who knows? But right now, the returns are enormous. And they bring it to the MCG, and who knows whether your form stacks up individually or collectively. But if you play like that, I think it's hard to you're certainly never throwing in a white towel. You're certainly giving a level of performance every week. And when you look at the numbers and the balance sheet on ball movement becomes really easy if you can win contest post-clearance. When I say easy, it's a bit strong, but it becomes more advantageous. That's last year, right? Yep. The ball movement balance sheet. They had pretty good seasons, those 4 teams, right? Grand finalists, top of the tree. Look at this year's, and it is a guide. 85% of games are won by the team that wins the ball movement battle game day. It's going past contest. Contest is about 65, Joey.
On ball decrease, yeah.
Ball movement's about 85. So you can see there the Crows, top of the tree. Hawthorn, Collingwood, Gold Coast. You'd say they're the teams that right now are putting it together, and there's some others with some work to do. So I love it, and I just wanted to put it on the radar because they're making quick decisions, ball in hand. Their intercept to score game is terrific in the middle of the ground, and this is why. So the outnumber is hard to defeat. So let's see what it does on the weekend. But if it does perform on the weekend, there's no secrets. There's no mad scientist behind, the doctor of ball movement, Matty Nicks, as we called him last year, is at it again. But there's no tricks. There's nothing that's fluky or false. This is real, and it's happening for the Crows.
And what I like about it too, Joey, to Kingy's point, is their ball movement's fast, but they all support. So you got those 3 tools there. You got Walker, you got Thilthorpe, and you got Fogarty. You look at that and you go, right, they want to stay deep, fast ballmen, I want the ball, but they're pushing up. They're the T2s, they're up, and then they'll even leave Rankin one out on quick ball movement, which is a real threat.
But that's why the vision's great. You think of Adelaide now and you see it, they're all in on offence and they're all involved in they're all involved in defence and they're all involved in offence, and that's the key to a good side when you've got everybody involved in doing it together.
So the last year they averaged 83 points, this year it's 102.
Yes, massive.
So you got to catch up with where they're at right now. The lag of last year, you got to purge.
Joey, your first crack is Hawkeye. You got to watch on the Hawks.
Yeah, we're going to take a look at the Hawks now, because this is now the time where we find out just how good the Hawks are in season 2025, because the next 5 weeks are going to be telling. And when you take a look at what they've done so far, so they haven't done much wrong. They're sitting 7-2. A lot of their game is in really good shape, and they've beaten who they've beaten. But when you take a look at the teams, the top 8 v the top 8, you can see there the Hawks have only had 2 games against teams inside the top 8. And we know there's a bit of a class gap at the moment between these 8 teams that have been in the top half of the fixture for 4 weeks now, v the bottom 10. So those teams in the top 8 are 33-7 against all the bottom teams. But you can see the record against each other. They've only played Geelong and GWS. So they've had a relatively easy draw, you could say, this season. I mean, coming into the year, it might not have looked that way. But now we're going to find out more about them. But what is interesting is there's been a lot of discussion. Are the Hawks, how well are they playing? Are they at their absolute top? But they're not really, but they're getting wins. And if you just take a look, there are some chinks in their game at the moment, particularly after the first couple of games where they started really hot. The big one is they turn the ball over more than any other team in the competition in their back half, which can leave them vulnerable. You can see there the opposition have been able to score on them going the other way. And in fact, if not for accuracy, that number 13th could be even worse for the Hawks. But teams that they've played haven't been able to capitalise. The clearance differential, I'll get to why that's important soon. And that leads to a time in forward half differential where they've only won time in forward half 3 times, I think, in 9 games this year. So there are some chinks. But if you just take a look at what that looks like, and we've shown some vision in recent weeks about the Hawks moving the ball out of the back half. Kingy showed some vision against Port Adelaide and how they're able to trap them in their defensive half. I showed some stuff against Richmond where Sicily in particular was turning the ball over, and Sicily's number 1 in the competition for turnovers in the back half of the ground. He has 32, but the way the Hawks play, they're all or nothing. So if they get out of the defensive 50 and they get some bounce and they can switch and go, they are dynamite. They're hard to stop. But if teams can clamp them and lock it in the forward half, force them down the line, take away that run and bounce that you see from Weddle and Giaf, plays like this, which Melbourne did really well watching this game back, particularly in that second quarter. Melbourne owned time in half. I think they had about 10 minutes more in this quarter alone, just getting the ball, repeat entries, but they weren't able to finish their work. They missed a lot of their shots on goal. So why it's going to be interesting is the teams that they're coming up against Hawthorn. So they're coming up against 5 of the better defensive teams, or particularly the forward half teams in the competition. So can the Hawks get their way through and bounce and pop and go against the best teams? And maybe they'll put the competition on notice and say, yeah, we are the real deal. Or will they find it a challenge? And that's where it's going to be interesting, because, as I said, Melbourne kicked 3 goals, 6 from forward half turnovers. They had 26 of them, which was a pretty high number. West Coast a few weeks ago had 35 turnovers in their front half, kicked 5 goals, 5. So you take a look now at who they're playing in the next 5 weeks for the Hawks, and this is where the challenge is going to come, because they are playing teams that are strong at clearance, first of all. So we showed the Hawks clearance differential numbers not great. What does that do? It gives you field position. So you take a look at these same teams that they've got in their next 5 games. Time in forward half, really strong at playing the forward half game. You can see the numbers there. So the Hawks are going to have to take care of the ball in their back 50 because these sides can punish. So when you take a look at the final graphic and being able to score from these forward half intercepts, they are 5 of the better teams. The Brisbane are the anomaly, but we know last year they were elite in this category, and that's something that has been a strength of theirs. So it's just going to be a watch now over the next 5 weeks where Hawthorn are at, and we'll know more then.
So on the back of that, does it change your thought process on where James Sicily should play?
It's a good question, because he is turning the ball over more than anyone, but he's also the player that can break the game open with his kicking. So he's part of the problem. He's the hit and miss that the Hawthorn...
So would you move him or keep him?
I'd leave him. I'd leave him for now. Maybe your man Weddle can play more forward, like you've shown, but just going to be a watch and see. The Gold Coast in particular, they've got that forward half clamp going beautifully.
Just on that though, Joey, the method coming out. So they've been going for the $1 million kick, so to speak, a little bit of Lairising. Yeah. So, you know, when you look at their game, against Gold Coast, you just showed number 1 time in forward half. You're going to get the highest quality pressure right now coming out. What would you change with their method?
I'd take a bit more care. You don't need to be reckless out of your back half.